Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinema Flow podcast. I'm your host, Zach Abdelbaki, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Damien McCarthy. He is the writer and director of the new horror film Hokum, which stars Adam Scott as a troubled writer who retreats to a remote inn to scatter his parents' ashes. He is consumed by tales of a witch haunting the honeymoon suite. Disturbing visions and a shocking disappearance forces him to confront dark corners of his past. Hokum is currently playing in cinemas everywhere. Make sure to get your tickets right now. It's a brilliant film. Now, please welcome to the show the writer and director of Hokum, Mr. Damien McCarthy. How are you doing today, sir?
Great, Zach. Very good. Thank you for that. That was a great, great introduction.
Of course. And thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I'm a huge fan of your previous film, Oddity. I saw that in the cinema and it was phenomenal. And I think you've outdone yourself here with Hokum. I think this is one of my favorite films of the year so far.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. That's great to hear.
Of course. And my favorite thing about this movie isn't the scares, it's the story. I love the way you fleshed out Adam Scott's character, Ohm, and gave him a complete character arc. He starts off as a very unlikable protagonist, but as the story progresses, we see that he has had some truly traumatic experiences, and we come to understand that hurt people hurt people. Now, that doesn't excuse the way he treats people in the first act, but the character is interesting enough and he goes through enough hell that by the end I was rooting for him. So, can you talk about how you approached tackling this character with Adam and how you guys managed to redeem him in a way that felt earned by the end of the film?
It was very much that idea of in that when you first meet the character, because he's so cruel and unlikable, that I would hope that audiences would they wouldn't like him, but I would hope that they'd at least stay engaged or maybe even kind of want to see this guy punished. Like they know they're sitting down to watch a horror film. They know that as the film's going to go on, this guy's going to end up in some very scary situations that are going to be life or death for him. And I thought there could be something in that idea of like going, okay, I'm going to settle in and I'm going to look forward to watching this guy get punished. And I really hope he gets, karma catches up to him. He gets all the things that are coming to him. And then you would hope then that somewhere along the move, somewhere along the story, that as you get to know him a little bit more and you kind of see why he is the way he is, as you say, hurt people, that you kind of go, okay, maybe now we don't want to see him, maybe we want to see him get out of this situation. We want to see him survive everything that's happening to him, that he's kind of been through enough. And those were the initial conversations with Adam. He really liked that. That's, I guess, what he found. One of the things he found appealing about it was that, yeah, the guy does start off as so unlikable, but he's definitely engaging. There's something interesting about watching this fella. And yeah, it was just always trying to watch that line between never going too far that you're going to completely lose the audience, but certainly there was a lot of trying to push them away in those early moments.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how the plot forces to confront his emotional wounds. I think it's a very rich script. And I can imagine for an actor like Adam, the part of why he was attracted was because he can inform all of those moments in the first half of the film with that implied history that we then come to realize by the end of the film. And it's a very rich performance that he gave. It's really great. And I must say, you really know how to make the audience root for something to happen and sit at the edge of their seat. Like when we're waiting for the dumbwaiter to go up or when we want Jerry to hear the bell. I'm just yelling at the scream in my head, like, come on, like I hope this happens. So can you talk about how you elicit these strong emotions from the audience? And also, I'm curious about how you accomplish that dumbwaiter effect because I can imagine it's hard to like get a camera in there. You must have had some cool trickery with that.
I guess with that, it was not very glamorous at all. It was pretty
Yeah.
much a metal box on set and parked because we shot this in the studio. All of the honeymoon suite sets was in the West Cork studio. We shot this in the southwest of Ireland, and it was pretty much just a metal box on a forklift, which was parked to the side of frame. Such as it's a case of moving that up and down, and then just selling the effect with sound design for the shots. Then when it's traveling the full length of the shaft, it was actually a horizontal set that we built. So it was traveling along the ground with the camera rolling with it, and then just in post kind of flipping it, turning it upside down, so you have that feeling of descent. And again, sound design does so much work. And then when he finally gets out of the dumbwaiter, that basement then was actually in a really beautiful castle. It was in the ground floor of a castle in the hills in Ireland, in West Cork, where we removed a window, this old window that had been at the end of a long corridor, and built this huge rig outside where the box would, again, that same metal framing for a box would move down the side of the castle wall, and then Adam would essentially climb in through the window. So once you put them together, it sells the effect. It seems, you know, it seems complicated for such a small thing of just a guy traveling to a basement. But yeah, but it seemed to work. Um, I think in terms of trying to elicit that feeling of maybe tension, is it how you described it, or elicit almost frustration in the audience? You know, it's like, you know, don't do that. That's a bad idea, but you kind of want them to do it. Otherwise, there's no movie. It's kind of like people watch horror films to, you know, to watch, to hopefully watch characters make really bad decisions when they've already been warned not to do something. I mean, in our film, Adam's character is told, "Do not go upstairs. There is a witch locked in that room. Don't go to the room." And of course, the audience go, "Yeah, he shouldn't do that, but I really hope he does." You know, that's kind of the fun of horror movies. And that can be frustrating, of course, because the audience is like, "Oh, don't do this. Why would you do this? This is such a bad idea." Yet they want them to do these things. So I guess my job and the job of the actors is to try to sell that. Go, yeah, it's he's going to do it, but maybe we got to make it believable, or kind of get him to that point where, you know, where without it being dragged out too much. It's like, you know, we've got to make him. You got to make it feel like, yes, okay, he has no choice but to do this.
Absolutely. And that's honestly when someone tells you not to do something, it makes you want to do even more. So I think it is
Yeah,
believable. Um,
yeah.
also, like my biggest fear is germs. So the most visceral
Mm.
reaction I had was when he fell into the dirty bathtub. I was like,
Oh
I nearly
yeah.
fell out of my seat. That was a crazy moment. And I really love his character's name, Ohm Bauman. And if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken, Ohm is the unit of measurement for electrical resistance. And I read online
Mhm.
that you used to work as an electrician before making feature films. Is there a
Mhm.
connection there, or am I reading too much into it?
It was it. I mean, I liked the name just because it's unusual,
Hmm.
and you know, I was trying to come up with I guess with a name that I'm not familiar with. I'm from Ireland, so I don't know anybody named Owen. I've never met a Bauman. So it was so I guess that first part was definitely to do with the with that electrical resistance, and maybe my own concern with having to go back to that job, because I read this interesting, I can't remember where I read it, but it was like the amount of or the percentage of filmmakers that get to make three feature films and then kind of go on to have a career. It was quite low. So I always had this thing at the back of my head. Okay, if I could make three features and if they could find an audience, I feel like, okay, I'll probably do it for a living then. You know, I'll be able to get more. It's again, it's my own probably insecurity or concern, because I love, you know, I love making movies and just want to keep doing it. So there was a little bit of that. It was a little bit of a nod to a nod to a past life in some ways. And yeah, and then I think it just made sense for his character too, that he is so resistant. I mean, the film's called Hokum because of his belief. He just doesn't. He dismisses everything that everybody else tells him is happening. So I thought for that, it would just have a nice little double meaning.
It's an interesting name. I thought it was Irish, but then I looked it up and no, I couldn't find it. But then I looked up that fun fact. I have a nerdy question for you because I love Irish films. All of my English teachers throughout primary and secondary school were actually from Ireland. So
Hmm.
for the audience out there, what are some of the best and most underrated Irish films that people should go check out? Maybe that influenced you.
There's probably a lot of recent stuff. I mean, there's so say Kate Dolan would have done made a movie called "You Are Not My Mother," a recent horror film from a couple of years ago. That stars Carolyn Bracken, who I ended up casting in my last film, Oddity. That was off the back of seeing her great performance in that in Kate's movie. I really like Lorcan Finnegan. I think is a great director. Vivarium, that he shot in Ireland is yeah, that's one of my, not just one of my favorite Irish films, is one of my favorite horror films. Yeah, they'd be two. Lee Cronin's obviously doing great. I mean, Lee's really leading the charge with Irish horror filmmaking at the moment. So I think his first movie, Hole in the Ground, I thought was very interesting. Yeah, they'd be a few. Probably my favorite, most obscure Irish. Irish film. It's not a horror, but it's a romantic comedy from like 20 years ago called When Brendan Met Trudy. The film's just feels somewhat lost now, but it's I think it really captures Irish sense of humor very well. So we have a sitcom called Father Ted, which is a silly, very silly kind of borderline surreal comedy, and there's a touch of that. To Roddy Doyle is the name of the writer who wrote When Brendan Met Trudy. That they'd be a few that I find quite inspiring.
Absolutely, and especially the actors these days. There are so many great ones. I mean, Killian just won the
Oh yeah,
Oscar. Um, Also, I really loved the opening scene of this film, which depicts a scene that Adam's character is writing, and you filmed it
yeah,
in the desert in Abu Dhabi. I'm actually
yeah.
from the Emirates. I live in LA now, but my family's
Ah,
still
all right.
there, and I grew up there. I was wondering, what was it like filming that scene in Abu Dhabi, and also what was it like working with Imagination on this film?
They were excellent to work with, and it was just and it's you get lucky making films. Sometimes things just line up. So it was never even oh, we need to find. I know I'm going to have to shoot in this climate at some stage because it's Ireland is wet and green grass, and then the location I need for this conquistor lost in the desert is is dry and hot and is sand. So like it's and I wanted to do it for real. So it was never a case of like, oh, we need to find a company that's based there to work with. It was again just a very lucky thing. We had Rami from Imagination, one of the producers, Rami Hassan, over with us while we were filming, and he was terrific. And it was, yeah, I imagine it was a bit of an adventure for him coming from UA to all the way to the southwest of Ireland and to shoot in this small village. And I imagine he found that to be a bit of an adventure because certainly when I went out to UA, it was a big adventure for me. I'd never been to. My girlfriend's from Spain, so I'm used to like, a warmer climate for sure, but nothing like that. It was terrific. And I think what was nice about it too is that when you're working with the crew out there, and I'm so used to working with an Irish crew, you think, oh, is it going to be very different? It was great because it wasn't. It was like cool. Like there are just it's the same kind of it's the same nice environment on set. Everybody's making films just feels like that universal thing. Now it might be because Imagination Abu Dhabi just surround themselves with good people too, but everybody that when I went out there, the experience was great. The only thing I was having a tough time with was the heat. It was like, oh, it is hot here. I got to get used to this a little bit. But yeah, but for me, it just really felt like an adventure, flying out there. And we had Austin Emilio playing the conquistador, who I was a big fan of, and he just looked great in the armor and Lara Campbell's costume on him. And yeah, so you really felt like we were making something very exciting to open and close the movie on.
Absolutely. You joined the ranks of Denis Villeneuve and J.J. Abrams and Christopher McQuarrie, all the people who go out there to make movies. And we have a lot of Irish population in UAE. That's why all my teachers growing up were Irish. So I'm used to hearing
Okay.
film. It's so it reminds me of home. Um,
Film, yeah,
Film.
yeah,
I want to talk about the cinematography because this film looks
yeah.
incredible, and I love that this film rewards viewers who pay attention. Like when there's something
Mm,
scary in the frame and you know it's there, the worst thing is when Ohm might like turn away and then come back and the scary
mm,
thing is gone because now I'm wondering where is it going to pop out. It's very creative
yeah.
framing, and you have like so many cool shots, like the match cut between the glass ring stain to the circle in the desert.
Mm,
I think there was something like that in Oddity as well, and the
yeah.
grainy black and white elevator sequence and like the scenes in the basement where Ohm is just holding a lantern, which I think is like the main source of lighting. So I'm just
Mm.
curious about your conversations you had with your cinematographer, Colm Hogan, and I believe he also shot Oddity. And how did you guys craft the look and feel of this movie?
It was a continuation of a conversation really from Oddity, because Oddity, I know I wanted to do something that felt that felt almost kind of cozy, like that there'd be something kind of to create just a very pretty image where sometimes it'll just be the actor's face and this lovely warm, almost like a candlelit, a candlelit feel to it, within a lot of crushed black and a lot of shadow behind them, and it really directs the eye. Then it's like they say the whole thing of directing is and making films is you're trying to direct the audience's eye as much as possible. It was just to build on that. I was like, this should feel like an old ghost story. This should feel like that was kind of the first thing. It should just feel like an old ghost story, or a tale that somebody's telling around a fireplace, or or even a candlelit dinner where it's just the candle, but maybe the conversation is kind of serious, whatever's taking place across the dinner table. And I just thought there'd be something about that that would almost kind of lull people into this false sense of security. Go like, all the cast look great, and the lighting is lovely on them, and there's something kind of relaxing about the movie, but then it's all ruined and interrupted by horror. Like suddenly a ghost appears and ruins that candlelit dinner. That was kind of the that was kind of the idea behind it. I'm always determined just to try to make my films rewatchable. It's always really important to me that people will come back and view them again and hopefully see something that they hadn't spotted before, or hear something, or make a connection that's there, but then they go, oh, wait a minute, that's I didn't realize that this is planted here, and it's paying off later. And um and w- and I think there's something in trying to make a film look as nice as possible to hopefully people will come back to take another peek at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, and I know Oddity's rewatchable, and I'm excited to see this again with my friends on Tuesday. We're going all to the, like six of them, we're going to the theater.
Ah,
And
cool.
I bet I'll notice new things every time. And I also with the cine, I love the POV shots that were handheld. They really put us in Ohm's headspace.
Mhm.
And also I want to talk about the visual effects because a horror movie would not be scary without good visual effects. And the biggest compliment I can give is that everything felt real and done in camera. I'm curious how much
Yeah.
of it was practical versus post-production. And I imagine you wanted to do as much practical as possible to give Adam something to react to, like the Jack the
Yeah.
Rabbit makeup particularly was a standout. You talk about that part.
I'm just a really big fan of in-camera effects. It's like even if there's some stuff that's complemented with VFX, and I think really when you get to the ending, we have a sequence that is I don't know, for want of a better description, demons are ready to kind of they've opened up a door of hell. I mean, that is a mix of cast that we shot on the day in camera, and then the VFX team, which are the same team that I worked with on Oddity, really did great work, kind of uh, designing that character, designing those characters, and really bringing them to life, but building it on top of an in-camera performance. For other things, then like Nia Volone's makeup on The Witch, all of that's very much in camera. Again, a few little things augmented or just complemented, very is nice and subtly. I mean, the best kind of VFX or stuff that you just don't really notice. And the same with Jack Will O'Connell, who also plays Albie. He then plays Jack the jackass, who's watching Ohm sleep and appearing on the TV. A lot of this is practical makeup effects, and there's just something about it. Just helps the film to it ages better because it's in camera. And a lot of my favorite films are things like the Thing and Total Recall and stuff that has Rob Bottin's makeup effects and all of his stuff, because it'll never age. It's perfect because they shot it. It's in camera. It's not going anywhere. As opposed to if they'd done it maybe CGI at the time, or with some kind of computer generated imagery, then it's like give that 2 years and let's see how well it's going to do. Even though of course there is stuff like Lord of the Rings and incredible things like this that still don't seem to age. They just seem to be that. It's perfect.
Absolutely. And I watched some of your short films in preparation for this and Caveat. And with some of the shorts, I couldn't tell when they were made because I mean, the visual effects or practical effects don't
Yeah.
age. I mean, I couldn't tell if it was early 2000s or mid 2010s. But I have a very silly question for you because you mentioned the climax. I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a scene that reminded me of the cartoon SpongeBob SquarePants. In case you aren't familiar, there's an episode where SpongeBob and Patrick are about to be attacked by a sea bear. So they draw a circle in the ground,
Yeah.
and that causes the sea bear to leave them alone. You have a similar thing here with a piece of
Yeah.
chalk. I'm curious, why did you rip off SpongeBob SquarePants?
Because you got to steal from the best, so it's my audition. I want to be hired to direct a few episodes. And I am a fan of SpongeBob SquarePants. I had never seen that thing. I'm aware of it now. People have been sending to me, but yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah, I do believe that chalk sales are going to go way up after people see this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. They'll be selling them at the airport when people land in Ireland. Yeah.
Yes, you'll have to do your autographs in chalk. Um, I also really love the poster for this movie. It sort of looks like a kaleidoscope with a bunch of
Yeah.
characters. Were you involved at all in the conception of this poster, or is that all the marketing team?
Oh, I've got to give that to Neon's marketing. I mean, they're brilliant. I mean, the way they are, the way they market movies, and their eye for stuff that maybe I'll look. I mean, I'll put in the movie, and it'll be me and my team that will we'll have been designing these things, and then they'll almost highlight something we've done that we haven't seen. So even Paul McDonald, who made the Wooden Man and Oddity, Paul came back then and made all the figurines in the diorama. He did the haunted clock with the boy with the mallet on top of the clock. All these kind of things. Just Neon are fantastic. They'll go, okay, we have ideas for posters. Let's show some stuff, and you're just blown away. I mean, they so many cool things. But that kaleidoscope one really is incredible. It's a beautiful poster, and I think it's the nice thing is it does sum up the movie. It's like it's just it's very chaotic, but there's something just nice about it. Your eye kind of wanders around that poster, picking out new things. Yeah, that's all them.
Absolutely. I got to get one on my wall. And speaking of neon, I actually discovered Oddity and saw it in theaters because of Chris Stuckman's interview with you on his podcast and his review. And it's
Ah,
funny that you and him later, like, both were with Neon because Sheldon
right.
was into Neon.
That's
Funny.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he gave a glowing review for this movie as well. Um, I want to ask you about the score of this movie because there are some
Mhm.
really cool moments where I feel like we hear voices in the score, if I'm not mistaken. Those add a lot to the
Mhm.
atmosphere. Can you talk about working with your composer, and were there any scores that you referenced as inspiration for what you were looking for here?
It was a mix of there was some existing music, often the Stilly Night, and there was a song by Harry Bird and the Robert Wellies, was just a folk band I really liked playing in the bar. There was a piece of music by Moby, which I felt was delighted to get that because that's what I wrote that scene to. It's used in for the Conquistador closing. There's a piece of Sacred Harp choir music recorded in 2010 to close the movie. But then Joseph Bashar, then it's all Joseph Bashar, and Joseph is just, I mean, he's the he's just the best to work with. Like he's just a lovely guy anyway, and he's such a horror fan, and obviously he's got such a track record of working in horror movies. I think a lot of my references was actually Joseph's own work, which I don't know if you never know if people like you to reference their own thing, but Joseph, he's a very, very cool guy. For somebody who can create such dark, unsettling stuff, yeah, he's really laid back and he's just cool to hang out with. But yeah, those discussions were very much things that he'd done, and I could kind of, stuff like it's one. I'm trying to think of the name, but it's like soaring harmonics or something. I would always come back to this piece of music. He has done so much stuff but I liked the idea of having that kind of choir, that definitely that vocal quality to it, which I felt then would work with the sound design too, which was a lot of wind, howling and whistling wind, and then actual kind of ghostly type sounds as if there's a banshee flying around the hotel. These are all the things, the feeling I was always trying to create. Yeah, but with Joseph, it's just kind of, he's no shortage of ideas. He's giving you all this very, very unsettling stuff. That's also very exciting as well because it just can't be one tone. It just can't be like one note of horror the whole way through. He had a lovely way to kind of create suspense and kind of action and show that, like, okay, things are ramping up and we're heading towards a finale. Very good with all that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I hope we get the soundtrack on Spotify or something. I'd love to listen to
It's
it.
coming. I think I see it's coming very soon. So yeah, I'll be listening to it myself. I mean, I had spent time writing, listening to Joseph's music in the past. So yeah, it's something I'll definitely continue to do.
That's awesome. And you mentioned those figurines and everything in the production design.
Mhm.
I want to shout out your production designer because they did an amazing job. And this is not obviously the first haunted house film, and yet you managed to make it very unique. And I loved all the insert shots that you have. And you also did this a lot in your previous films. They really add to the
Yeah.
sense of environment. Can you talk about like how much of it was props that you were looking for on eBay versus stuff that they were, manufacturing specifically for this movie. And also, it's really cool that you got these insert shots because I'm sure, I mean, but for the audience, like it takes time to light those shots, like it just
Yeah.
as much time as it does for a close-up. And usually on set, if the schedule's behind, they might be like, oh, we can lose those shots, they're not necessary, but yet you fight for them in like every movie. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I storyboard them into they're never in the script. It probably just says something like, "There's an old clock on the fireplace," or as my scripts are very very bare. They're not. Yeah, there's a lot of white on the page. I mean, there's not a lot of text there, and that's just to kind of again to give everybody freedom to put in their ideas. So they're all storyboarded though. They're definitely, it's like I know the pattern of the editing as I'm storyboarding. So like I am going to need an insert here of a little figurine, or the clock is going to be here, or I know that I'm going to have a an extreme close up of the little guy on top of the clock, which is actually he's right here with me here. Where is he? There he is. Um, so yeah, all storyboard, and then it's just a mixed in. It's of like we might find something that's very old and interesting, or it's like, oh no, we're never going to find this, like we got to build it. So I mean, even for this guy, for example, I mean, this is a much bigger replica of him because we
Uh-huh.
needed to like a camera, even with a macro lens, like the guy on top of the clock, he was only very very small things. So it's like sometimes you build these things a little bit bigger just so you can so you can get across that information on camera.
It's almost
um
like a reverse miniature.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, Peter Jackson's team used to call them big bigatures or something like this, where it's like it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be a small thing, but they've blown it up. Yeah, and then it's just working with Till and his team, and Paul McDonald, who built a lot of this stuff for us. Yeah, and I'm crazy, so I'm out there looking for stuff and going, oh, I found this thing at a car boot sale or a market or something like this. And then it's just the most interesting, scariest thing that for an insert that kind of wins. It's like um, the scariest thing in front of the camera. That's the thing that's going to end up in front of the camera.
That's so awesome. And I bet you have like a treasure chest full of stuff that you're like, oh, I'm waiting to put this in a movie one day. I just need the right one. Uh,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
yeah. I'm always wandering around, picking up bits and pieces, going, oh, what's the story behind this, and trying to find a way then to get it into a script.
Yeah, but I never thought about yeah, bigature as you say, because yeah, you're right. You need that detail and
It's
the
just the
yeah.
Yeah, it's just the detail. It's like, because like the real guy was so small, and I knew that needed to land on a big screen. So it's like, it's just kind of like the look in his eye. You kind of you need you need to build them bigger sometimes. But again, that's the joy of working with with good producers who go, yeah, that's worth doing. Let's build it and design that bigger, because it'll make a great shot. And the producers on this all of them were like, they had great imaginations, and very they could see the power and the value of a really good insert. And it sounds like such a simple obvious thing, but yeah, believe me, some people would just say, you don't need the inserts, just keep moving. It's about the but it's about everything. You need both the performance, but then you need Adam reacting and doing his brilliant performance of being scared. But then it's kind of, it's almost like the gag then becomes, well, what was watching him, or what startled him? That becomes something that kind of complements the horror in the movie. So yeah, very important stuff, I find.
Absolutely. And he's alone for a lot of the movies, so these are his co-stars. What do
Yeah.
you do you do you schedule it all into like one day so that Adam can take a day off or something? Like, or how does it work?
They can be very useful. Like, we'll say if somebody, I don't know, for example, I think some off the top of my head now, maybe if we're shooting a sequence in the morning where Adam is, maybe we shot fairly close to in sequence, which is
Yeah.
a really great way to really, it's a gift to be able to film in sequence. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we need an hour or so where somebody needs to go to make up, to kind of make them now look like they're all, if Adam need to go to make look dirty, or if Mallory, who played the ghost mom, if we need her looking one way, but then after lunch or something, it's going to be looking, with the kind of ghost effects. Those inserts, then that's a really good moment for us to go, okay, let's grab a bunch of inserts, and you can schedule it that way. While somebody is offset, preparing for whatever they need to do for the next scene, makeup or costume, whatever. Then it's like, perfect. This is a great time now to schedule a bunch of inserts.
Oh, that's awesome, sir. It's really an amazing vision you had for this movie, and I'm so excited for everyone to see it and for your next film as well. Sir, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to speak with me. Congrats on the brilliant film. I think it's going to be a huge hit, and clearly all the critics love it, but I'm sure the audiences are going to love it as well. Before we wrap up, can you let the audience know where they can follow you on social media so they can keep up to date with everything you have going on?
Thanks, Zach. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for that, and great questions too. Thank you. Um, I'm not a very good social media guy. I have an Instagram. I'm quite easy to find. How's the movie going? Is what I call is my handle. But I'm sure if you put in Damien McCarthy, you'll find me. It won't be the most. I'm not the most exciting person to follow. I rarely post up at the moment. Now it's fun because I'm posting things about Hokum and stuff like that. But yeah, sure, they can find me there.
Awesome. I'll put links to all of that in the description, and I hope I get to chat
Great.
with you for your next film, whatever it is. I'm sure it's like I'm waiting for Damien McCarthy's Weapons, like your epic, like it's gonna big budget. I mean, all your movies are amazing, but I think each one's gonna be better than the previous one.
That's hopefully the goal. Yeah, to keep take what you learn from one movie, apply it to the next, and keep going. And hopefully, at the end of the day, leave behind a good body of work that's got a bunch of fun movies. Yeah, but thank
Absolutely,
you.
sir. Of course. And to everyone listening, please go watch Hokum. It's playing exclusively in movie theaters right now. Make plans, take your friends, take your family. Even if they're not horror fans, they're still gonna love it. It's really a movie for everybody. And there's a link to purchase tickets in the description. And that does it for today's episode of the Cinema Flow podcast. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.